Good afternoon, everyone. We will call the July 25th Metro Flood Diversion Authority Board Authority to order. And I would like to have Don take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I am here.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn. Mr. Ebinger.
Here.
Ms. Colback.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Sherling.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Salzwald.
Here.
Quorum is present.
And on behalf of Mayor Carlson, Chair, she is unable to be with us today. She's traveling for work. And I graciously said, as Vice Chair, I would step in. And welcome Commissioner Denise Kolpak, your first official meeting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
And I understand you've met with staff as well and getting up to speed.
Yes, we had a fabulous orientation. Commissioner Turnberg and I met with them and learned a lot. It was a great overview. Clearly, expertise is prominent and was apparent. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Super, thank you. I have a motion to accept the minutes or any corrections.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I would ask for an amendment to the order of the agenda. And so I'll read, which would become, if adopted, 6A. And then everything below that would be renumbered. And the amendment would be to receive a resolution to take immediate action to prevent the unauthorized disclosure of confidential and privileged records, data, and statements by the former executive director. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. We'll take a roll call on that, Don.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colback.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Thank you. That'll come later then under 6 with an update from General Counsel John Shockley. Now we'll go to a consent agenda. Is there discussion or comments or a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kolpak. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll have Don take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colback.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
As we work through our agenda, the Blue Angels are flying over City Hall.
Sorry for the disturbance.
Sound of freedom, Mr. Chair.
Regular agenda, item 5, co-executive director update. Mr. Wilson.
Couple items for your consideration this afternoon. The first one, the executive director search process update, including a review and approval of the executive director position description. And if you look in your board packet, page 115, this is the updated position description that will be utilized pending your approval for the upcoming search process. The position description, as it appears here, is a combination of input that we have received from this group, both in previous conversations here at the dais, conversations within the planning committee, and submitted comments that the board has presented to myself and my co-executive director, Mr. Redlinger. And we have incorporated all of the comments that were received. We had great participation, great dialogue of what you wanted to see in this job description, leading to up to this. With that input, the Cass County HR director, working with the city of Fargo. HR director put that into the form that you see here, and then that is the final product that you are looking at in this point. It's quite a lengthy process. Obviously, there's a lot of roles, responsibilities, and expected experience in this. The categories are broken down into roles and responsibilities, core competencies, experience, and minimum qualifications. I could go through point by point if you would like me to. Otherwise, happy to answer any questions or however you'd like to move forward on that.
Mayor Mahoney.
Robert, in the Finance Committee, there was concern by some of the members of the oversight of the new CEO. Basically, maybe guide rails. In governance, we sometimes talked about guide rails or reports or things that go on. Do we feel in some ways we've corrected any of those going on in the future? Board will be well informed of any changes and things that are going on at that position?
Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Mayor, I believe so. Again, this is the job description right here, the evaluation, the review, the performance feedback is more along the lines of what you'd discussed and what you worked through in your meeting with Mr. Schatz last week. And I fully anticipate that working with the chair, the vice chair and incoming chair, that will be incorporated and utilized moving forward. Absolutely.
Because I think the problem we had, Chad Peterson and I know that, we each just made some assumptions, and I think now we're going to more of a report out to the board on a more timely fashion, as I understand, Commissioner Grunberg.
That's correct. One of the items we talked about at the planning meeting was also kind of call it an operating approval schedule that brings in the framework of the mission and the JPA of what are the guardrails for the new director. So in the case of salary increases, who should be involved with that? Is it just the executive director, or is it the executive committee or planning committee or chair? So those things will be more well-defined as we move forward.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd be looking for standby for additional questions if there are any. Otherwise, I would be looking for approval of this job description.
Other comments, questions? What are your wishes?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlene.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald.
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Continue.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, related to your item just concluded is a search process and timeline for advertising, recruiting for, evaluating, and appointing the next executive director of the authority. You take a look at this memo that is on screen being displayed at this point. Pending approval of this process, we would look to post the advertise and post the position beginning tomorrow, have that open for 6 weeks. At the conclusion of that time, there would be an applicant screening and identification process that would last approximately 10 days, and then move into a confidential, non-public candidate interview or review process, assuming you have more than three applicants and you have not narrowed that candidate pool down to three finalists. And then the next step in that, again, from approximately a 10-day period, identification of the public finalist candidates, appointment of the preferred candidate would tentatively be scheduled for October 24th, with the executive director start date of employment somewhere between December 1st and January 15th. This is, I would call this timeline and the timeline a starting point. It's probably a bit aggressive. But we're open to discussion on that, but that is the time, a timeline that we feel, and a process that we feel that is achievable, but obviously pushes us a bit.
Questions? Mayor Mahoney,
Move to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
yes,
Mr. Sajbal.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. As Robert leaves and Mr. Reddinger arrives, just a word of appreciation and gratitude to the two of you for working through the prior 2 months and these 3 presentations today. Mr. Redlinger.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Board of Authority. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time to discuss this item as well. We have prepared for the board's consideration a draft RFP. This RFP would be utilized to develop a classification and compensation matrix for the MFDA organizational structure. One of the pieces that's been identified is that we need to really have a durable, long-range classification and compensation study to inform not only the board about where your positions that work for the authority are graded and rated, but as well as inform the new executive director when he or she joins us, hopefully later this year or early in 2025, about what we've developed for a compensation model for the structure. So I won't repeat what everything is outlined in the RFP, but I would just note that this is a really key element for a professional organization, a public agency such as the MFDA, to have a compensation matrix such as this. So I just want to acknowledge our HR team here at the City of Fargo. They assisted with helping me find a couple of model templates. And what I did was take a look at some national organizations, including the Society for Human Resources Management Professionals, to look at what they had on their websites for other sample RFPs. This RFP kind of blends elements from that organization as well as others for what we might look for in a consultant. Our local units of government here in Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, Cass and Clay counties utilize different consultants in this space. We would certainly distribute this RFP to all of those consultants and make them aware of the opportunity. So the RFP terms are all outlined there and the desired scope of service. I would just close and say that we hope, again, this will provide that consistency and that professionalization of and predictability of our compensation model for the board and for your staff going forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And but we would also be asking for a motion to approve this RFP as well, so we can get this out on the street.
Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you, Michael. I'm just wondering about the, usually when we do a wage study, there's some parameters that are involved with that. Have those been established, or in other words, what are they going to compare to?
That's a great question. Thank you, Chair, members of the board, and Commissioner Campbell. Great question. So what we would do first is likely provide them with the comp models of the other member entities of the diversion authority and say, these are the comp models, and perhaps one of the consultants will have worked with one of the entities here. And this is what the philosophies are there. But I think the thing that we would like to do is, based on the responses that come back, we would want to fine tune that and just talk about the desired comp model, likely take that to the planning committee, and then we need to come back to award the work before the full board anyway. And I think at that moment we could say we either want to, for example, lead the market, be with the market, or have more flexibility, with market condition. And so we will certainly look to the consultants to help us with some thought on that, but we'll come back to the board on that question. You'll get a chance to weigh in on that another time after we see who responds.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Edlinger?
Aye.
Ms. Colpack?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Schirling?
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg?
Aye.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald?
Aye.
And that is everyone.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Redlinger. As John Shockley comes up with the amended order of the agenda, Mr. Shockley is going to be handing out some documents. I'm just going to paraphrase from the copy that I received here before the meeting that talks about the administrative resolution to take immediate action against to prevent the unauthorized disclosure of confidential and privileged records, data, and statements by the former executive director. There's a series of whereases, but in general, what this resolution that Mr. Shockley will provide an overview on is it reflects that Mr. Paulson, as former director, had attended numerous discussions and meetings, equally in numerous executive sessions. And whereas on April 9th, Mr. Paulson resigned, whereas on April 11th, Mr. Paulson's resignation was accepted by the Diversion Authority, whereas the co-executive directors on July 10th advised Mr. Paulson on the requirements to maintain confidential and privileged information. In a recent district court case, it's disclosed that we learned that Mr. Paulson's providing testimony on behalf of potential knowledge and use of those guarded and protected information as former employee, and that found guilty would be subject to a Class C felony. And furthermore, Mr. Paulson, whether as an individual or former board member, executive director, lacks the authority to waive the rights held by the authority, and the authority's public, and it's in best interest of the public, and to protect the taxpayers and the authority and unauthorized disclosure of confidential and privileged information. So that's a quick summary of the first 2 pages. There's accompanying documentation that comes with this resolution. Mr. Shockley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and my apologies for the late add to the agenda. Given the severity of the issue, we felt that it was critical to get it before the board. In Exhibit D of the resolution I've handed out to you, we were recently made aware that the former executive director is offering expert testimony to involved in some of the eminent domain cases, providing expert testimony in all matters related to his actions on the board and also as executive director. It's very concerning because, as many of the board members know, that information that you derive during an executive session and/or as part of being a board member, because don't forget he was part of a board member, you can't just disclose that without permission from the entire board. The entire board is what holds the ability to waive that right. That goes for attorney-client privileges. The attorney can't waive it on your behalf. A staff member can't waive it on your behalf. Only the board can make a decision to waive attorney-client privileges. And so we felt that it was very critical to make it very clear that, and this is totally up to you as a board, but our advice is that you would not waive your attorney-client privilege for the documents, for the information that's been produced by myself, by various litigation counsel dating back to the permitting days, dating to the P3. And so we had some concern that we wanted to make it very clear that you were not waiving that right. Also, we wanted to make clear that that extends just beyond confidential and attorney-client privileged materials. That is confidential materials that would be produced during staff meetings, though that information can't be shared. There's, as the board is aware, as a board member, confidential information stays confidential. Doesn't make any difference whether or not you're a current employee or a former employee. You have that fiduciary obligation to maintain that. So as part of the resolution, what we're asking the board to do, and you'll find that on the second page of the resolution. And the first item is that we want the board to make clear that you're not waiving your attorney-client privileges under Minnesota law, North Dakota law, or federal law relating to any attorney-client privileges that may exist for any documents throughout the whole organization. Once again, it is only this board that has the authority to do that. An individual board member, past or present, can't go disclose confidential information. Same with a former executive director, or for your cities, like the city administrator, county administrator. That is not a decision by anybody but the board. The second item is making a broad-based objection, and our intent is that we would utilize this in court proceedings, that this board is objecting to the disclosure of all that confidential information. So this resolution would show up in court proceedings, making very clear that this board is objecting to the disclosure of any of that information and that you have not waived your rights as a board. Cass County Joint Water Resource District made the same motion this morning, a little bit different language. We didn't have quite the same amount of time to craft the resolution because it just sort of came up. And so we decided that we'll get it done at Cass County Joint through a motion that was in the minutes. And we formalized the resolution only minutes before the meeting. We'll also have MCC JPA pass the same resolution protecting and preserving its rights. The third item is that you're not waiving any confidential and privileges associated with closed executive sessions. Recall, Mr. Paulson was a board member. As a board member, you have the same obligations as an employee. You can't just disclose that information because you attended an executive session. Only this board can do that, and making very clear that you're not waiving that right. And then finally, you would be authorizing, and this is sort of a broad request, but you'd be authorizing general counsel and litigation counsel that we would immediately send Mr. Paulson a cease and desist letter noticing that he cannot disclose confidential information, can't disclose privileged information, and if necessary, following up on that with the appropriate litigation action to enforce this board's interests. And the reason that it's so critical is, as you know, there's financial information that's shared in executive session, there's negotiating strategy, that could be on a big issue such as the P3 contract, that could be on a small issue. It doesn't matter the size of it, it's confidential information. Also, as Commissioner or Chair Greenberg had indicated, there are potential criminal liabilities for the disclosure of confidential information. So you want to make very clear that if it continues, we would like the authority to refer it to the state's attorney's office if that's deemed necessary. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm saddened that we have to bring this forward to the board, but in the interest of protecting the authority's litigation position and confidentiality, we felt that it merited bringing it before the board, and it was very important. And the project is bigger than one person. It's bigger than one person's feelings, so happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Question, Commissioner? No. Moved and seconded, discussion?
I do have one question. Is there any,
Go ahead.
is there any indication this was done for remuneration of any sort?
There's been a disclosure of being an expert witness. We do not know the compensation level, if any. Typically, serving as an expert witness involves compensation. We don't have sufficient information to know that. To be frank, it doesn't make any difference whether or not it's you're disclosing confidential and privileged information. And we take that very seriously, especially as attorneys. Like that's a big thing. You can't disclose that what you've learned. I mean, if the board said, yeah, we're fine disclosing it, that's your choice. That's not anybody else's choice.
Commissioner Peterson.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm happy supporting this, getting this information pushed forward. And I'm not sure if this is an executive committee item or not, but I'm just going to ask the question. Every indication based on the packet I didn't have a chance to review prior to about 5 minutes ago here, there's potential he's already, if I'm hearing this and understand, it's more of a question because I'm a tad flabbergasted at this stage, to be honest with you. But every indication is he has divulged information. And again, if this is an executive committee thing, Mr. Shockley,
Planning.
Well,
I'm saying even more secluded than planning. If you don't feel comfortable answering that, that's fine too. So I'm going to support the motion no matter what. But I'm again taken aback, trying to figure out what's going on. Has he already done things illegally?
we As a litigation team, met with the litigation team a couple hours ago. We don't know fully what extent of information has been shared or not shared. We intend to find that out through appropriate action. But we can't say definitively what information has been shared. That's why I wanted to keep it strictly to what had been filed with court. We know in the courtroom an affidavit has been filed. That's a matter of public record. We know that a expert disclosure has been filed. That's a matter of public record. In the expert disclosure, I reproduced that on page 2. It very clearly says in the expert disclosure that he will provide testimony as to all matters through which he acquired knowledge as a civil engineer serving as director on the board of directors of the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, as a member of the governor's task force on the FM diversion project, and as executive director of the Metro Flood Diversion Authority from 2019 through 2024.
But we also have, presume all this correspondence we're giving is correct, and again, I just blew it through it quick. If you can make the cost escalation issue buried, I can make the rebar and Dobson issue go away.
Those were text messages that were recovered from diversion authority / county devices that were provided to the employee.
I'll just stop with that. Thanks.
Mayor Mahoney.
I just want to say we've been doing this for like 10, 13 years now as a board, and the board has been very disciplined all that time. I know numerous times we had executive sessions, difficult decisions we all made, but every board member has honored what we have to do as being part of this board and what we can reveal or not reveal. I know Mary Shirley, and oftentimes you were in a contentious time and you just had to sit there and not say a word and just go through it and do the things we do. So I just want to compliment the board for the fine work they've done over the years, and I will support this motion because you just can't do this. This is a violation of the principles we all practice. So.
Further comments? Hearing none, I'm just going to underscore page 2, the third whereas, and just emphasize protecting the interests of the taxpayers. Let's not forget that. It's part of our job, big part of our job. Take the roll.
Mayor Durdis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Colpack.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzweedl.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to 7A, update on construction projects. 6A, I'm sorry. We got this order right? 6A,
Now this would be 6B, I suppose.
new agenda 7. You're up, Chris. Take us where you want us.
All right, I'm good. Thank you, Vice Chair Grimberg and board members. Terry sends her regrets she's not able to join us today, so I'm going to give a brief update on the core progress and then also cover the diversion authority portions. Probably won't go into as much detail as Terry might have, but a couple of things that I did want to highlight on here. On the I-29 grade raise, we are stepping into final inspections and acceptance of their turf establishment, which will bring that particular part of the project to a close. I believe there are a couple of warranty items that the Corps is working through with the contractor, so might be a little more work out there, but that one is quickly moving to a closure. On the Red River structure, I know this week they had done some fitting of the first gate in the structure, so anticipating we'll get that set here in the next few weeks, and potentially in a permanent form. And then also they've been, I think we'll start receiving shipments of the second gate here shortly as well. And probably lastly on Reach 2A, I know Terry mentioned last month that they were concerned about the contractor on Reach SE2A. Just wanted to confirm for you guys that they did mobilize in this week. They're starting to do some work, and we're less concerned about that, but certainly still watching that contract as well. And then on the design side, the design process is moving forward. The Corps just completed their final review of Reach SC3 and are stepping towards that final review of SC5 here in the next month or so. So making good progress on the design side as well. So with that, I'd stand for any questions related to the Corps update.
Questions? Continue.
Thank you. On the Corps side, or excuse me, on the Diversion Authority side, good progress being made finally with a little bit more stable weather. I'm sure everyone here is appreciative of that, but our contracting team certainly is as well. They've made good progress on earthwork again. And kind of just some highlights here, the new areas, they've moved into the Lower Rush Inlet area and starting to work there. They also are starting to do some levee construction work in Reach 10, which is just south of I-94. So they're continuing to do excavation in several of the reaches. They'll continue to move through reaches 11 and 12 for levee construction through the summer and fall, again gearing up that they'd have all of that work done before winter, and then just continue main channel excavation over the winter months. So we've got 11 of our 14 reaches are currently under construction, which is great news. We also received word from Burlington Northern that they will be transferring rail traffic over to their bypasses either late this week and or next week. So that was great news as well. That's a little ahead of their intended schedule. So that was good news. And you'll notice if you're on the I-94 west of town, they're making the connections to make those bypasses to the full 4 lanes, gearing up for winter travel there as well. So that's my main update on the construction side. So if there's any questions related to Diversion Authority construction.
Questions? Commissioner Kolpak?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner Sherling?
Thank you, and maybe this is coming up, but what's the timeline for all the mitigation projects? And it seems to me that there was some kind of shelf or something in the Cheyenne. I probably got that wrong, but I know you're doing something with fish in the Cheyenne.
Yeah, we're making good progress. The mitigation is a large bucket that probably has a lot of tentacles. But related to the Cheyenne mitigation work, that work's related to undoing some of the fish restrictions that ended up in place as a result of the West Fargo diversion built a few years ago. So we're using part of our mitigation for some of our impacts to correct some of that. Unfortunately, we can't start that work until we have our project certified, so that will come a few years later down the road here. There's many other mitigation projects that are ongoing, but related to the Cheyenne mitigation work, that will be a while out until we can start that.
So when this project is operational, you'll still be doing work on mitigation?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So real quick on the safety update, another good month. We did have one fairly minor recordable event. One of the contractors was loosening a cap on a pump and it broke loose and it got sprayed with some hot water and caused a minor burn. That was a recordable event, but it sounds like that was fairly minor. Otherwise, a couple of first aids. So no other recordable events this month, and another good month from the safety perspective. So stand for any questions on that. And I think then we'll move on to the drone update for the month.
This month, as we showcase progress in pursuit of permanent reliable flood protection for the communities of the FM Metro, we also take a moment to recognize and celebrate our nation's independence. I'm Tom Fuchs, Senior Construction Manager for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, with updates on multiple bridges and structures, as well as other construction highlights for the FM area diversion. At the Stormwater Diversion Channel, the first of 19 bridge decks was completed at the County Road 32 crossing this month. Crews placed about 500 cubic yards of concrete through the overnight and early morning hours to form the deck.
It's beautiful.
Just west of the FM Metro, at the 38th Street West crossing, more bridge girders were placed this month as well. Over at the Maple River Aqueduct, multiple segments of the flume slab, the surface that will carry the Maple River across the channel, have now been formed and concrete placed. In the last month, ASN Constructors has formed and placed nearly 2,000 cubic yards of structural concrete at various features of the aqueduct, including portions of the flume's slab and abutments, and portions of the adjacent wing wall footings and walls. In addition to many bridges and structures, ASN Constructors is working on some of the 14 river and drain inlets to the channel. At the Rush River Inlet, they've continued excavation and are beginning to stockpile bedding and riprap for the next phases of construction, which will include armoring the excavation and placing boulder weirs on the downward transition to the stormwater diversion channel. There's much more excavation happening, of course. Here's a look at the work being done on Reach 9 of the 30-mile-long channel. To date, ASN has moved close to 22 million cubic yards of material. South of the metro area, at the Red River structure, assembly of the first gate is now complete. The strut arms have been installed and the gate has been raised. Crews will complete welded connections securing the 300,000-pound gate in its final position in Bay 1 of the structure. Ames Construction, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers contractor, also has been busy backfilling both abutments and installing sand drainage blankets and wick drains. Preload embankments will follow in these areas to mitigate differential settlement amongst the flood walls and full-height embankments to be constructed on both sides of the structure. Speaking of embankments, crews have resumed constructing nearby portions of the embankment west of the structure and have also resumed constructing a temporary bridge crossing the Red River, where the easterly portions of embankment will extend into Minnesota. Nearly 1.5 million cubic yards of material will be excavated and placed throughout construction of the Red River Structure project, enough to fill the North Dakota Capitol building more than 19 times. Construction on Reach 2B of the 22-mile-long southern embankment is also underway. Earthwork is now progressing both to the north and south of County Road 16. County Road 16 has been temporarily closed for construction, but will be raised as part of the project to extend up and over the embankment. For the latest road closures and more construction information, go to fmdiversion.gov. This month,
Communications, Amy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. As you saw, we've added some graphics to the drone video. For most of us who are immersed in this every day, we know where the components are, but it can be kind of confusing for the community. So I think they did a really great job in being able to better show where all of this work is taking place. In addition to that, we did videos for the drone survey team with ASN Constructors, both in the newsletter, which again performed very well, and on social media, and it really seemed to resonate with our audience and was shared quite a few times. So there was a lot of interest in that topic. We also facilitated some project updates and tours this past month. Michael Redlinger and Mayor Carlson presented to the Chamber Public Policy Committee on kind of where we are with the project, and then Chris Bockygaard had a chance to lead a tour for the Western States Water Council earlier this week. Also did a couple quick updates on both the work at the County Road 32 crossing, Maple River Aqueduct through the month, and then for media relations, it was mainly our June construction update release to show all the work that has been taking place, and we'll have another fresh one here coming out tomorrow. Are there any questions I might be able to answer for you today?
Questions? Nice work. Thank you. Land management.
Yes, good afternoon. On the slide before you this afternoon, you will see on the left-hand side, again, we have completed the acquisition of all property rights along the channel. We have also completed all the property right acquisitions and/or entered into a settlement agreement for everything under construction in the southern embankment. So our focus is really on the upstream mitigation area and acquiring all the necessary property rights, particularly the necessary flowage easements. On the right-hand side of the map, everything that is shaded in green means we've acquired the necessary property right. Those are highlighted in orange, means we have entered into eminent domain. Those that are blue means we are still in negotiation. For the majority of those, authorization for eminent domain has been filed, and we're just waiting for everything to be entered into the court. You can see by this next slide that we are 97% complete for the construction footprint. Those that are outstanding, again, we have entered into a settlement agreement with them. We're just simply waiting for the purchase agreement and the closings to occur, and then we will have acquired, again, all the property rights that we need. And then for the UMA footprint, we're sitting just under 53%. Again, we have additional closings coming up. We have some tomorrow and scheduled out all the way through August. When you look at it by location, the southern embankment, again, we just are waiting a couple of those to close. The upstream mitigation area, we are sitting just below that 53%. And then the environmental monitoring easements, we're still working on those. The diversion channel and the Oxbow-Hickenbach area, those are complete. You can expect to see that these graphs will drop off here and they'll be included at the bottom, probably under an asterisk. So we're just kind of focusing on those portions of the project where we still have property rights to acquire. On this last slide here, we do continue to negotiate settlement agreements. I want to thank the Cass County Joint Board this morning. We did bring forward two properties that are in eminent domain. We were able to successfully negotiate a settlement. The board did authorize that settlement this morning, so we'll start working towards closings. And we do have a mediation tomorrow starting at 1, so hopefully we'll see some fruition with that as well. In the last month, we have successfully closed on 28 parcels that involved 3 property owners, which is why you saw such a significant change in the map from last month to this month. We did complete the real estate certification for SE2B, which means the Army Corps of Engineers was able to issue an option agreement. So they had their contract in 2 parts. We were able to get them everything they needed, which their deadline was July 15th. And again, they've awarded that option to their contractors so they can construct the full length of SE2B. We did obtain a final right of entries for surveying needs in the city of Christine to obtain those flowage easements. We have retained appraisers for the Cheyenne River benching project and the Christine flowage easements. And just to note, for the properties in Minnesota, some of you are less familiar with the eminent domain process in Minnesota, but we have acquired the necessary property rights for several of those property owners. We still will go in front of a commissioner's hearing to determine that just compensation. In that filing, what we have determined that anybody in Clay County, if they have not removed the structures from their parcels by April 1st, we will step in and we will take the necessary steps to start removing those structures. When you're looking in Wilkin County, it's going to be June 1st. And so just for situational awareness for this board, as we get up upon that date, we will notify those property owners. Many of them have already been notified that we're prepared to come in and start removing those structures if they have not removed them already. And so we have a handful of property owners, I believe there are 8 or 9, that we're still negotiating with in Clay County that we need to come to a resolution. One of them is coming to the office tomorrow, and hopefully we can mediate that so we don't end up in a position where we're going to have to come in and remove a structure not on their timeline. So just so that the board is aware, and maybe to address Commissioner Sherling's question, we do have several mitigation projects that are ongoing. One of them is Drain 27, so that's wetland mitigation project that is ongoing that has entered into its maintenance phase. When we get something built and we're entering into maintenance phase, we do have a lot of conversations about that. It's a communications between us and the neighboring property owners, concerns about overspray, encroachments and stuff. So we got a good team working through that. And then of course course, we have the forest mitigation, which we've talked about a couple of times here. We have several hundred acres that are prepared to go under a forest contract with the Corps right now. There was a protest bid to that contract, so we've stepped in. We're maintaining those properties. If you recall at the last board meeting, just for situational awareness and transparency to the board, we did add an additional $90,000 to the JT Lawn Services contract to maintain those while that protest is going on. We're also actively working with the Corps to get a 2025 contract out the door. The majority of those those parcels will be located in Minnesota, and there's a lot of steps that happen before we can do that, but we do have a lot of that effort ongoing. So, are there any questions that I can answer?
Seeing none, before we move to 9B, just to acknowledge Commissioner Turnberg again is joining the Lands Committee, and she's in attendance today to hear your wonderful report. So we'll go to 9B.
Okay, so the next agenda item then is an actionable item. And so this is in regards to the Horace Railroad Corridor that we purchased back in December. And we have been working with our internal team about appropriate next steps. We've brought it forward to the Lands Committee before, and before this board just authorizing it for sale. We've been working over the past couple of months as the board authorized that to sale. For those of you who are less familiar with our excess lands policy, that requires that first it goes to the member entities and gives them the opportunity to purchase it. Then it goes to the previous property owner. It'll go to the neighboring property owner. If there's still no interest, it'll then go up for public sale. These properties then have been offered to member entities. They've been offered to the previous property owner, which is BNSF, and they've waived their right to purchase back any of the rail corridor. And so we did take this out to the neighboring property owners. And so all the neighboring property owners that you see on the screen before you have expressed interest in purchasing this. The property owner to the south, Mr. Wiedner, actually expressed interest in purchasing all of the corridor. Our recommendation is actually to split that corridor down the middle. It's 100 feet wide, so each of them will kind of get 50 feet of that. I'm going to pop over here to a web map because it can be a little bit easier to see this way, and I apologize, I should have put this layer on before. And one of the reasons, just so you know, for that recommendation is we've had multiple conversations with these neighboring property owners as this came available for sale. We had notified them that we'd have JT Lawn Services available for weed maintenance and control. Most of them said, well, we've kind of adopted that as a part of our backyard already. You can see a couple of these property owners already have structures built in that rail right of way, and they've been utilizing as if it is their own backyard. And so we don't really want to disrupt any of that. If I move on to just the next agenda item, because they're very similar, so we can take the motions together or separate. We have the similar situation happening up here. This is 7248. This property owner to the south here is interested in purchasing the full corridor. We are just recommending that we sell it to them, that southern portion, and then the northern half of this would be sold to this property owner up here. There's a little bit of an exception that will occur right here on the 7247. Mr. Danielson was offered the opportunity to purchase his half of the corridor from BNSF directly, so he did do that. They have expressed interest in purchasing this be the western or northern half of the corridor. We are recommending that we sell it to all these neighboring property owners. I'll go back into our agenda just so that you can see how we're recommending that we divide this up. And so you can see we are recommending that you just divide it to the middle of that corridor. And then again, we'll kind of go north like this. I did disclose to the Lands Committee yesterday and also to the Cass County Joint Board. We are in the middle. We had an environmental assessment done throughout the rail corridor. There's some additional work that Mr. Bakigard and I have to go through with the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality to get some of those environmental concerns remediated. Our understanding from talking with Ron Intertech is that they believe because of the type of environmental hazard that's involved in these three parcels, it'll be as simple as removing that ballast and then maybe scraping off a couple of inches of that topsoil. It's just going to take us a little bit of time to get through that process with the Department of Environmental Quality. So today we're asking your permission to go ahead and divide these sales up this specific way, since that wasn't what was approved in the original motion when we brought it to you a couple months ago.
Questions or wishes of the committee on 9B and C? Commissioner Peterson.
Mr. Chair, thank you. This makes the most sense. I'm happy we've done this. Although some of us in public service have often been left with small widgets of land that are useless to everyone. So what are we going to do if, say, 3 of 10 homeowners say no, and you wind up with 3 satellite widgets that no one wants?
It's a fair question, Commissioner. It's something we considered when we went forward. And so what we did when we proposed the sale of this has to be bought as one large parcel so that it's not severed up. And so when they all came to us and said, hey, we want to purchase this as individual property owners, what we'll require is they enter into a purchase agreement. And if any one of them backs out of that purchase agreement, then there will be some implications for doing that. Our concern with just kind of parceling it off like you're talking about is that we would have those little widgets and then it'd be literally impossible for us to go out there and maintain those. So it's kind of an all or nothing deal for both of them. And so I know one of the property owners is sitting behind me. He came to the Lands Committee yesterday. He's actually in this group right here in that 7247, and he's been working with all the neighboring property owners to make sure everybody's on the same page and that they all understand it's kind of an all or nothing. Either all the neighbors purchase it or we won't sell it to them. We would sell it to the other property owner who is interested in purchasing it.
That is the best answer ever. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I should note, because I should have put it in the memo, we are moving forward with the authorized sale price of 50 cents per square foot.
Questions, or what are your wishes? Commissioner Sherling,
Move to approve.
Second.
are you moving to both B and C?
Yes.
Motion is to approve both 9B and C. Questions? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Seldebold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
9D.
Okay, the next agenda item then is asking for a variance to the excess lands policy. This board has only authorized one other variance. It was about 2 years ago, and it is in regards to organic lands. So this doesn't come lightly that we bring this forward to you, but this does involve, I'm going to scroll down here so you can see this. It involves the rail corridor parcel. Outlined here, 7234B, and then it'll be 7234A. So this is the Horace Grain Elevator. This also goes all the way out here to Main Street. And so this is something that we did ask for authorization to sell at the last Lands Committee. The Lands Committee requested that we come back with an exception to the policy. Again, if we follow the policy as it's been written, what we'd first have to do is offer this to the neighboring property, first to the member entities, then it would go to the previous property owner, and then it would go to the neighboring property owners, and then it would go be auctioned off at public sale. One of the concerns here is that there is a high value associated with these parcels, and that really, it's probably in the best interest, is probably some of our highest valued property that we currently have. It's in our best interest to really go straight to that public sale. So what the policy, what we outlined for you before, is you can see everything that is underlined is what we would be removing with this exception, and then we go straight to this public sale portion of the policy.
Questions? Commissioner Sherling.
Just a comment. Do you want to discuss the potential value of the property? We have had it appraised.
Yes.
We've had a couple of different looks at it, I guess.
Yes, so Commissioner Sherling and members of the board, we did have it appraised. It's about 6 months old, so it's getting a little bit stale on me, but the appraisal came back at $1,025,000. And that is actually not the entirety of the property. Oh, sorry, Peggy. Pull your video back up here. So I'm going to pull this up so I can tell you specifically what that would include. So that does not include when you come right here to this Park Drive. It does not include this. It is just from the Center Avenue right here. It goes all the way out to Main Street, and then it comes all the way out and includes this little triangle here. Now, the triangle wasn't deemed as worthless, but it is a low value because there's a potential that the city of Horace might be interested in it from like a roundabout or something. And so again, this property is everything in green, comes all the way out here. We did include in that appraisal the necessary setbacks for the city of Horace. There's just a little over 2 acres that are viable for somebody to get on. They also did estimate the cost to tear down that building, and they estimated the value of the product within the building. So there's value in some of those old beams. I'm one of them, right? I have an old beam that's above my mantelpiece, so somebody can come in. And so while they'll have to pay to remediate the building or tear it down if they don't feel like they can repurpose it, they'll also recover some of the costs from the metal and the wood that's sitting within that building. So it's a little bit of a wash. I'm not necessarily saying it's worth $1 million. It might be closer I'd say $850,000-900,000 for this particular parcel. But we do want to work with somebody who can assist us in selling this, and then also engage in some communications with the city of Horace, so if they're actively involved in the sale of this. And then these parcels down here were not a part of that appraisal. What we do have is the railroad appraisal that did offer, what they valued this at a per square foot. So some of this is $6 per square foot. A portion of this is at $8 a square foot. And then our appraisal put this rail corridor right behind here at $12 a square foot. So I think it's worth continuing that conversation about what the current day market value of that would be, and then potentially can bring that back to this board at a future date at a recommended sale price after we engage someone in that public sale process.
Commissioner Pepcorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The main thing you talked about was talking to the city of Horace, because to me, that's like a substantial part right in the center of Horace. And I can't help but think, that's great development area or whatever they're going to do. And for a small town to have influence on that would be very important. So, and I don't know, what would the policy be if they wanted to acquire it? Do they get preferential treatment, or are they just considered they don't? Okay, I guess that's my, and especially Cass County, I guess that's my concern. It's a small town and it's like a big chunk of their downtown. To me, they should, anyway, I guess that's my question, because it's a big deal. If it was a percentage of Moorhead or Fargo, or it's, anyway, sorry for rambling, Mr.
No.
Chair.
Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. Well, and Jody, can address this as well, but the policy goes to the member entities first, and so Cass County, for example, has purchased some right-of-ways over the years. It would be crazy to give that up and then have to go back and get it again later for a future purpose. So that is, and Horace is not a member entity. This property here, with the railroad, was purchased at a very high price. So we are not going to get that back. But if we can recoup some of our value there, that would be great. They have zoning authority, and so that, what goes there, we're certainly going to, want their participation. And, I think there could be some beautiful things. You just look at downtown Moorhead, downtown Fargo, what you can do with some of these pieces of property. So I think they've got plenty of examples that we can.
So, Mr. Chair, so this is just a technical question. So then let's say, hypothetically, then it would be Cass County that could possibly help Horace as far as if they wanted to acquire it, because Horace is not, no?
No, I don't think Cass County would be engaged in this at all.
Okay,
It's
okay.
the Diversion's
Okay,
property, and so we,
Right.
we'll be good neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
As a side note, my team was in a meeting a couple days ago in Horace, and they're planning for 1,300 new homes in the next 3 years. Further questions?
Ms. Smith, could you tell, how wide is that corridor?
This is approximately 200 feet wide, so it's a kind of a double rail track there.
Thank you.
What are your wishes? Mayor Mahoney?
Just as a question, I was asking about Horace. So Horace has just as much opportunity to buy this as anyone.
Yes, they would.
And our exception is where it's not the owner next owner to the right. It's just that whoever wants to buy this can buy it.
That is correct. So it would go to public sales, so they'd have equal opportunity.
And so however it comes out, if the city decides not to buy it, they'll buy it. If the developer buys it and builds a bar or does something else, that's what's going to happen. And we'll recoup some of the money we paid to take their railroad out. Is that correct? Thank you.
That's correct.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Oh, sorry. Mayor Dardis.
The question I have is to our lands chairman. Mary, are you in favor of this for all the
Yes.
hard work that you've done on developing our lands policy through and through?
Yes,
Support this?
this was, we really contemplated this a great deal with all of our lands members. And, and this goes back a couple of years with Mr. Shockley and Mr. Martin, Mr. Nicholson, and Mr. Dodds. Putting together this policy, and we really put a lot of thought into it. And it was really just, the idea is that you wouldn't have some parcel sitting out there in the middle of a farm field and somebody from town purchasing it and turning it into hunting land when the neighbor wanted to farm it. So we wanted to be able to address that appropriately, knowing that we would have a couple of exceptions like this. And this truly is an exception. I support this. I think it's the best way to go forward. It's smack dab in the middle of the fastest growing community in North Dakota. It's worth something, and our county taxpayers have paid dearly for it. So
Thank you.
I think it's exciting for them.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, just Mayor Dardis, our lands committee yesterday did touch on this for quite some time, and we did recommend unanimously that this variance be approved.
We'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson. Mr. Seldgevold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
9E.
Everybody that works with me on a daily basis knows I need these maps, so be patient with me. Sometimes it's easier for me to look at this large map than the map that's included in your packet. But what we're talking about right now is parcel OIN 858. So if I scroll out, you'll get just a better idea of kind of where it's sitting in the upstream mitigation area. It's right here. So going back to your packet, this is just under 12 acres that we're recommending for sale through the excess lands policy. This was a rural residential lot. All of the structures have been pulled off of this parcel. The recommended sale price is at $5,500 an acre. It is encumbered with a flowage easement. The next property owner will need to work with either the neighboring property owner or the county to ensure access. If you look at this map right here, you can see that driveway goes over onto the neighboring property owner's property. We have removed this driveway and mitigated this property at this time. This is not a recorded access easement, so it's probably just a friendly agreement between the neighbors. So either they can continue to use that if the neighboring property owner gives them permission, or again, they'll need to work with the county to create a new access point there. So the overall recommended sale price is $65,000. This one is not on a lawn maintenance contract. It's actually under a haying agreement with Schmidt & Sons and has been since 2023. Any questions that I can answer?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson. Mr. Pepcorn.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Ms. Kolpak.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Olson. Mr. Seldgevold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Jody. Mayor Dardis, finance update, item 10.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Grinberg. Finance Committee met yesterday, had a number of issues that we talked about. The approval of the bills. Bills that were presented in the last reporting session were $19,194,298.16. That was presented and brought forward by the Finance Director, Susan Thompson, for the City of Fargo. She also gave us a finance report that our net position of cash is $286,499,354. Also, the Finance Committee considered a presentation by Mr. Shockley with regarding to MOUs for the CapEx transmission line, and that was unanimously voted on and approved. And then there was also an amendment, an authorized amendment for the contracting action for that utility moving for CapEx, and that was for $1,897,429. That was basically all the business that we covered yesterday. I'd stand for any questions.
Questions for Mayor Dardis? Hearing none. Item 11, other business.
Mr. Chair? Can I ask a
Senator Kolpak.
question? Sure, thank you. And I wasn't sure, I could have probably asked this at the end of the comms report, but I think it might be for co-executive directors, Mr. Shockley and comms. My question is, in considering the resolution we passed earlier today and knowing that negotiations are very active currently with the former executive director, how are we planning for strategic communications, whether it's proactive or reactive, is my first part of the question. And secondly, how is, what can be said as far as a board member communicated so that we're all understanding the issue and what is permissible to say and what's the best way to say it reputationally?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kolpak, it's a great question. At this moment, what our recommendation is the resolution speaks for itself. If there are any comments from the media or requests from the media, they should be directed through Amy. The HR attorney's recommendation is that she will communicate through the former executive director's attorney regarding the matter and the correspondence that will go on. So from a strategy standpoint, I don't know if we have much more than that. This issue just came to light within the last couple hours, so we're still working through what everything looks like. So, great question.
And I'll just add, as a public entity, I mean, we try to be as transparent as we can, guarding any potential claims and things we need to be aware of that are attorney-client privilege, of course. But we want to be as transparent as we can. And the focus, of course, is protecting the taxpayers' investment through all of this.
Exactly. All right. Thank you.
Any other business? Are there comments? Mayor Dardis.
Vice Chairman Grinberg, I also received a letter from the Department of the Army, which is a 2023 summary with regard to their commitment and what they're doing and the dollar amounts. Mayor Carlson also received it, and Mayor Mahoney received it, as well as the office of our administrative offices. So I'd like to give this to you as our chairman-elect to look at the summary. And any questions that you have, obviously, it's coming from the Corps of Engineers. But it's an interesting report as to what their commitment was. The federal participation amount is limited to $750 million in October 2015 dollars, with annual adjustments for inflation of the remaining balance plus $29,007,757 in federal funds obligated pursuant to the design agreement. So there's some intricacies of all of the numbers of how they're plugging them in and how we're moving forward and what the inflation factors are. And as our chairman-elect, I think it would be pertinent that you have that in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Mahoney, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just was interested. We always talk about how much commitment everybody has, and you sometimes forget that the feds did agree to an inflationary clause in that. So it wasn't just 750. It'll continue to grow as we go along. And we also talk about at the end, if there's some money to come back to the diversion, that's what's going to happen.
That's a good reminder for us all. Other business, any other items? If not, next meeting is August 22nd. We are adjourned.